me get my energy. Welcome to the number one home for personal development. This is ministry for the abstract mind, and it's a safe space for everybody out there that has an out the box philosophy. Wherever you are, I hope you're being appreciated and never tolerated. And I got some great news. Personal development is for everybody. Today is a great day because I was recently introduced to an amazing mind, and I get excited anytime I get to talk to amazing minds. So I had a conversation with this young lady behind the scenes, and I'm like, man, now we have to talk about this in public. So I have a guest today at Coin Gang Ministry. So please show my guests love. When you're coming through in the chat, go ahead and like the page, share the page one time for the algorithm. And remember, personal development is for everybody. But enough about that. I have a guest today and I want to introduce my guest. Guest, how are you? What's your name? Where you from?
Wonderful. The guest name is Diva Laree. I'm here with Ken Billions.
What's
So
happening?
happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for
Pleasure.
having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, man. You have a great mind, and I'm super excited to chop it up with you today. But I,
Yeah,
I want to jump right into it. You,
let's
you
do it.
you put a term or a word to me, and I need you to talk about this word because I never heard it when you said it. Right? Tell
Okay.
me what a fifth dimensional woman is. What is that? What does that look like?
Okay.
I don't even know about the first two, three, four dimensions. So tell me what a fifth dimensional woman is, please.
Okay. So I say to my sisters, all right, first of all, you are multi-dimensional, all right. But what we need to do is break this down dimension by dimension. So we're understanding what we're getting into, what we're dealing with when we're talking about dimensions. So, Ken, I got to go back and make sure we understand what the first, second, and third is.
Okay.
I'm just going to do that briefly. You
No,
all know
please,
we're
please.
talking about uh, the x axis, which is length, the y-axis, which is height, and the z, which is depth. Okay, so that's your third dimension. Now, in this third dimension is basically what you see, what you feel, what you hear, and what we're learning to do now. Or actually, in the third dimension, we were just responding to whatever was going on. Now, as we move into the fifth dimension, now I don't want to get into the fourth because that's a heavy topic. But let's get into the fifth dimension because what we're talking about is what your actions are. All right. And learning how to now, as we get into higher dimensions, we're learning how to change our actions so that we create the third dimension that we want to see. All right. So now it's no longer about just responding to whatever was going on. Now, as you start to gain more knowledge, gain more access to information that's going on, now you learn how to create the third dimension that you want to see. And it starts with the fifth dimension because we're talking about your actions. What do you do when you wake up? What do you say to yourself? What do you read? What do you listen to? Who do you hang around? All of those things. Are you going to work out? Are you walking? What is it that you're doing so that it affects your third dimension the way that you want it to show up? All right. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, so the fifth dimensional woman, when you said that, you just had my mind jumping around. Okay, so fifth dimensional woman is the dimensions women specific.
Oh no, it's all of us. It's
Oh, it's
all
all
of
of it. Okay, it's
Now,
all.
listen, I most of my followers, and I got to say this, are males. My followers are 78% males. But in this particular topic, I see that women really need to know a lot of things that are going on that have not been told to us. So that's why there's this tour and this attempt to reach out to more women for them to get this information, because once they get it, then society as a whole will change much more rapidly than anything else. So it's important that women understand this. So going past the fifth dimension, then we start dealing with your vibratory frequency. All right. What happens to you? Do you stay in a lower frequency when something happens, or do you raise that frequency? Do you have the ability to do that? All of that has to do with what your third dimension is going to show up like. Then when you go beyond that, we're talking about what you know. Now, a lot of people understand this as beliefs, but what we're talking about when we're talking about fifth, sixth, seventh dimension, we're talking beyond beliefs. We're talking about what you know. Like, you know it in your spirit, in your soul, that this, whatever you're thinking, is law. And then that's what's got to show up once again in your third dimension. So I hope I explained that to help you understand what we're talking about when we're just dealing with right now the fifth dimensional woman, what she needs to do in order to start affecting positively her reality.
Okay, so let me take it back to the beginning, right?
Okay.
First off, is there anything wrong with women?
Is there anything wrong with women? Is there anything wrong with this society? If you look at this society, would you say this society is right and correct? All right.
No.
This society reflects her mind.
Mhm.
The society reflects her mind. Now she's gonna say, "Well, men are in here doing all this stuff, and men faults and men." But where they come from? See, I do these statistics, and we can go through statistics, and we can see, yes, that when we're talking about violence against women and children, yes, 85% of the perpetrators that are doing those crimes, they're male. Doesn't matter if you're talking about melanated or albion. It doesn't matter if you're talking about this country or another country. It's the same. When we're talking about violence against women, uh, yeah, 85% of the perpetrators are male. Robberies, crimes, violent crimes, murders, a large percent are males. However, what we have to recognize is 100% of them came from a woman. The thing is, when the woman comes into order, then a lot of the issues, they're going to just disappear. She's got to come into order. So the problem is we're not recognizing this, and women have been made to believe that they're victims. All of us, a lot of us just made to believe that we're victims, and the problem is we're not recognizing the true energy that we're putting out and how it's coming back to us. We're not recognizing that everything in our third dimension is just a reflection. That is all it is. And once we start recognizing that, we understand the universal laws, which we're going to hopefully get into this evening, then we're going to start recognizing our true power and come out of the victimhood state. I hope that explains or answers your question.
Yeah, you said something in there. I wanna do a deep dive on. You mentioned women coming into order. What does that look like?
Well, that looks like her recognizing her true power, that she, first of all, she respects the beings that she's doing business with. Let's start right there. Respecting the nature of the beings that she's trying to do business with. See, we've been lied to in this society. That's going to be a deep dive right there, because I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but you see women and males fighting now. Women and men are fighting. Well, why? What is this whole separation thing going on? Well, she's got to start recognizing who she is and who he is. So she's been made to believe that he's supposed to be a specific way when that's not even in the nature of a male in the first place. So coming into recognition of who the beings are that you're doing business with, that's the first thing. Can we start there? Then once she at least recognizes that, understanding who she is and being willing to stand in her true power. A lot of women are not willing to stand in their true power. They're passing certain responsibilities off to men that they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, go into that. What do you mean by that?
So we've been told, and I've said this before, that the man is supposed to protect and provide and rear children. Well, the deal is nowhere in anywhere does a male do those things, and it's not even in his nature. So let me start here, because I need to make this clear so that people are understanding where we're going or where I stand with this. So there, for all of us, there's the spiritual side, all right, where we are in harmony. There's love, there's peace, there's that spiritual side. Then there's the flesh. All right, the flesh has its own personality, its own nature. So we're not respecting the nature of a male flesh or a female flesh. So the male, we've been told in this society that the man is supposed to protect, rear, and provide. But then when we look in the other societies on this planet, males do not do that. They do not. Who is the one who protects? Is the female. Who is the one who provides? Is the female. Who is the one who rears? That's the female. And the problem is we've gotten away from nature with this society because everything it does is backwards. So when I asked you, is this society right? No, it's backwards. It's not natural. And so because it's not natural, there's a whole other epidemic of issues that are going on that nobody is addressing. And why is it? It's because, first of all, we've been made to believe something that's 180 degrees opposite of nature. And then secondly, we have beings that are doing things that they should not be doing. Okay, so again, let me go back into nature. In nature, again, when you look at the male, it's always the woman who's doing the rearing, the protecting, and the providing. Okay, let's go into lions. Lions. The lioness is the one who does all the hunting. Now, males can hunt, but they tend to get into a pride because they know the females are going to do all of the hunting. If there's a mother or a lion that comes up, a lioness that comes upon a group of giraffe, who is going to protect the baby? Who's the only one that's going to put their life on the line for that baby giraffe? That would be the mother. Where is the father? Okay, this is not, and I need to make this clear. This is not a diss to my brothers or no other male. We got to recognize and respect the nature of the beings that we're dealing with. And the problem is we haven't been doing that. We have not respected who he is. So, okay, you got the mother, she's doing all of the providing. You got the mother who's doing all the protecting. And where is the first classroom? That's the womb. That's who's rearing. Other females in other societies on this planet will not leave their child in the hands of a male. It doesn't happen. So we've been taught mama bear, papa bear, baby bear, but that's bull. That's not real. That's not natural. So what I'm saying to you, and I know that this is so opposite of what everything that we have been taught. I understand that. But when you look at what's going on now, so, okay, we understand it doesn't happen in nature. 98% of the beings in nature do not operate in this way. Okay, when you look at biblical history, you won't find one story in there where a man put his life on the line. Okay, look at recent history. A lot of people want to ask, well, if melanated people were running this United States of America before the Albions came in here and took over, well, how did they lose it? Well, what was he doing? He was doing something other than protecting. And if we look now and we see all of these women who are frustrated and aggravated because men are not, they're not taking care of their child, and she's got the Child Protective Services or whomever it is on his back, sending him to jail to the point where he gets a felony, then that's telling you men have been saying who they are, but women have not been paying attention.
Okay, question. So that nature is what, and how that nature is what, and what is the woman's nature just by design overall? What does that look like?
So we want to go back to where men came from, or what the purpose of the male was. All right. So now we had to go back to some Anunnaki. All right. That's a older story. you'll find, and why the male was created. Well, he was created to do the heavy lifting that another being didn't want to do. That's where the male comes from. Where does the female come from? Well, the female came into play because the Anunnaki, according to older stories, from the Sumerian civilization, the Anunnaki women didn't want to keep carrying these males, so they had to create a female in order to procreate with him. All right. So when we're looking at that, why did they create them? Well, they needed a slave. They needed a male to come in and do the work, but he wasn't to provide and protect, and that he wasn't put here to do. That's not what the vessel, the uh, this outside suit, this flesh was not created for that. It was created to do the heavy lifting and then to procreate, to spread seed.
So if I'm providing and protecting, if I'm doing that for a family, am I out of my nature?
You are, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. If you do that, you are an exception. If you're doing that, then you are an exception. If there, would you say that there's an epidemic of women who are frustrated about men not taking care of their children? Would you say that?
For sure.
Okay. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're doing that, then yes, you're out of your nature. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I am saying is, if it was in the male's nature to take care and rear and do all of those things, she wouldn't have to force him to do it. It's natural. Aren't things that are natural easy? Don't they come easy? Was it easy for you to lay down with her and create that child? Oh, that was natural. That was easy. That's the easy part. But when we're talking about what's natural, if it was natural, you don't have to force him to do it. He's going to do it. And the fact that you're seeing an epidemic of men not doing that, they're telling you it's not in their nature.
Okay, so why do women think it is?
Because we've been all trained to believe that. Oh, you gotta, okay, so now you want to go into history. Because then we go into history and understand uh, what really happened with the woman, who she was, where she came from. The fact that, and this listen, I speak on topics that are very controversial, because these are things that nobody ever heard, because we don't do our research on these things. But it originally, it was the woman that owned everything. It was the woman that had all the riches, all the wealth, all of the knowledge, and it wasn't supposed to be given to the male. That's originally how it went. And when we do our research, we can see that. So now, what ended up happening, and you can even go back looking. Well, everybody want to talk about Egypt and how they think we came from Egypt. Okay, did you not do your research on the women pharaohs? Did we not know about the women pharaohs? Did we not even know that the Sphinx was originally a feminine face? Why all these kings and whatever uh, look so feminine? Okay, so when we're talking about where the woman came from, she originally owned everything, and she was disrespectful to the male. She did dirt. So when you see the plight of the woman and she's in this position that she's in, she's not a victim. She did dirt to be in this place. So when we understand universal laws, then we can trace back, we can see, and then we can go do our research and find out just what she did. So I mean, it's a long history of things that women did to males, and then he took her over.
Okay, so help, let's use universal law as the vehicle. So show me universal law. This story, basically, the woman in, because would you are saying that the woman is in a fallen state?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please.
All of us are.
Please walk me through how universal law is tied to women being in a fallen state.
All right. So when you know, I can show it on so many different levels. So just with the woman, again, okay, let's talk about some of the tribes just in the 1400s. I want to go into the Khalifa tribe, Amazon women. One
Okay.
of the things that they were known for doing. Now, this is according to documentation that I've read or what have you. Khalifa, when you know the story of Wonder Woman, that is based on the Khalifa tribe. But you're aware of that, right?
Please, I'm gonna
I'm
act like I
asking.
don't know.
Huh? I'm
I'm,
sorry. You said
I'm
what?
gonna act like I don't know, so you can break it down
Okay.
for me.
So the Wonder Woman story is based on a true group of women. All right, they were known as the Khalifa tribe. They're the same tribe that California is named after. So you got the Spaniards that come in and they see all these big, beautiful, melanated women, and they name that territory after this tribe of women. They did not have males. And when males entered into their territory, they were known for feeding them to their pets. And I'm talking about they had these big pet birds that they would feed men to. It wasn't just them, it was other women, even when you talk about the Amazon women, that would do these things to males. Just a disrespect. When you put that kind of energy out by law of compensation, we're just going to use that as one. The general principle of universal laws is whatever energy you put out, it must come back. So, but if we're going to use one in particular, law of compensation, when you put an energy out, it's going to come back in multiples. So when she was doing all of these deeds to him, when we start, he starts to take her over. Especially, you can see in starting in the 2000 until that time where it switches from AD to BC, and then when you get that first Bible, we're talking about was it 325 AD? This was the first canonized Bible. It comes from scriptures. Now they're going to tell you the first Bible was 325 AD, but what we got to recognize is that the scriptures are so old they can't even date them. Who wrote them? Those come from Sibyls and oracles, melanated women.
Hmm.
So one of the things we need to understand, because everybody thinks Christianity comes from the Albion, it does not. When I say Albion, I'm talking about your so-called white. I don't call them white because they're not white, and I don't call my people black because you're not black. But if you want to believe that, go ahead. But here's the deal: when you recognize what happened, that the Christianity comes from the melanated male. All religions are patriarchal, meaning their purpose was to subjugate the woman. So when we talk about Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, any of the major religions, not your newer religions, but all of your major religions, they're coming from melanated people, the melanated male in particular. And this was that time, again, as we switched, this is when males really took the woman over. All right.
Okay. All right. So the male took the woman over. Okay. So in order for modern women, that's a funny term, modern women to know who they are, do you think it's important for them to know who they were in the past?
If you don't know your history, finish that sentence. Help me out.
You're soon to repeat it, right?
If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Right.
Nobody has told us about what role we truly played in history. Women, just like melanated people. Melanated people were told, "Oh, y'all came here as slaves." They have no clue that melanated people were running the United States of America up until the mid 1800s. They were doctors, lawyers, slave owners rather. They owned land, plantations, businesses, and banks. Nobody has told us that. And so somebody has put into our minds that we were always slaves and 400 years of slaves. Okay, well then you're going to keep living that, and that's what's going on.
Okay. So for women now, okay, are they paying for the sins of their foremothers?
I need to make it clear. All right. You're talking about, are they paying for the sins of their ancestors?
Yes.
You are your ancestor.
Okay.
We want to make that clear because we want to act as though, oh, I didn't ask to be here. Yes, you did. You contracted to be in this dimension. So when we talk about your forefathers, foremothers, that's you. And if they put out dirt, then we have to be accountable for that. And the moment that's why I say women are very important in this, because the moment we start to become accountable for what we did, then we can clean up the spiritual baggage. Because see, I get this a lot. People come to me and they like, Diva, I don't want to pay my house note no more. I don't want to pay my car note, and they're telling me they want to get out of all of these things. But then there's a spiritual baggage there that has to be dealt with. And if they're not willing to deal with that, you can drop all the paperwork you want to. You're never going to get that cleared until you get your spiritual self in line.
So the spiritual baggage, is it a collective? Like how does that go? So is it, if a woman that has agency over her life, is she still responsible for the collective spiritual baggage? What role
Yes,
does she play?
yes, sir. We're all responsible.
Okay.
I'm going to give you an example. Um, Again, why I say I don't call my melanated people black. For the simple fact that, again, those terms, they had nothing to do with skin color. They deal with the status. Now, with that being said, when we understand what the term slave, because then in the university, UNA University, I go into etymology. All right. So the term slave, when you look up the etymology of the term slave, you find that it's derived from the terms Slavic and Slovakian. Why is that important, Diva? Because those were Albions. Those weren't melanated people. The original slaves in the Americas were Albions, not melanated people. That's where the term comes from. So we've been told, and every time we have somebody put an image in our mind, that every time we see the term slave, we think melanated people in chains, but it was Albions. They were the first. We look up the Barbary Treaty. See, I go into this, so I only speak on the facts. Barbary treaties. Who were the Barbary companies? Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma. All those are melanated countries with melanated people. They're selling. Well, they were shipping things in and out of the United States. What was the cargo? Look up white cargo in America. Look up white slaves in America. Why am I talking about this? Because of the simple fact that because we don't know the true history and the fact that it was melanated people enslaving Albions first. So now we thinking we victims, but the truth is we got some baggage to pay because of the fact that our ancestors or us, we shipped in these slaves, we enslaved, they were kidnapping Albion children and bringing them in as slaves. Well, who were they selling them to? The original people were melanated. These people who were bringing them in were Moors. They were melanated. So I'm saying somebody got to pay for that. You want to know who was shipping them in? Those Albions, and why the Albions are so angry right now. We're just all spiritual entities returning energies to each other. So why are they so upset with melanated people and want to call them N-word this, and angry and all that? Well, those are the ones that were kidnapped and treated as slaves. Why is it? Who you want to find out who they were? Go look in the prison industrial complex. That's who they were.
Okay.
I know that's hard.
Okay. So what I'm looking at outside at the fallen state is based, you mentioned contract. You said contracted to be here.
Yes, sir.
So this fallen state is based on contract. So okay, how does one get that contract off of them? Is that possible?
Yeah, we do. First of all, becoming accountable, recognizing who you are. Again, going back to the spiritual side, there is this flesh, it's going to expire. But you, as a spiritual being, always were, always will be, always were, always will be. So then, when you recognize that, okay, then be accountable and willing to recognize, all right, if I put some dirt out in the past, I need to clean that up. Spiritually, first of all, you ever seen these people? They always say, we're going to issue you an apology. Why are they so ready to issue you an apology? Well, because that's where the spiritual cleansing starts. They don't tell you that. Why do the Catholics go into a little booth and then, forgive me, I have sinned, and I'm asking for an apology? That's because that's the beginning of the spiritual cleansing. Being willing to, first of all, be accountable for what you did, and then second, being willing to apologize. Now, then you got to put some other energies behind that, but that's where it starts.
Okay, so all right, okay, just so I'm clear. So the women that are taking over and then hopping into their fifth dimension, who would they be apologizing to, and how would that sound?
I mean, it depends on what we're talking about, but you got to remember everything started from her.
Okay.
She's got a lot of apologizing to do. Is she willing to recognize that it comes from her? Again, I say to you, yeah, there are men, the vast majority of crimes and issues, it's the men, but all of them come from the woman. You got to ask yourself, why? Why? How did she create this being? Why would she create somebody who comes up and wants to do all of these harmful things to society? What's going on in her mind? See, the problem is, this is why I go into molecular structure. She doesn't even know what she's doing. I'm gonna say this: the woman is spraying energies all across this planet. She has no clue that she's the one who's causing issues and energies to come. When she gets in order, it's got to clean up. It's got to. It doesn't have a choice because she is the one who's bringing the energies in the first place.
Okay, so the individual, because this is an individual thing or a collective.
First of all, everything, and I mean everything, and I mean everything starts with self first. Number one, everything. So when she cleans up, then everybody around her is going to come into order with who she is. It's always self. Because when you start trying to focus on people outside of you, then you're not doing your dimension any justice, because it starts with you. And as soon as you start cleaning up self, everybody who you want to come to you, everybody who you want to be in your circle, they're going to find you.
So as a guy, do I also have like spiritual baggage associated with me because of patriarchy? Do I also have to apologize as well?
Sir, yes.
Okay.
Are you a spiritual entity? Because remember, your vessel will expire, but the energy you put out in that vessel, oh, it's going to travel with you. So when you leave and you come back, you're going to have it with you. And the energies that know about it, and I can't talk about it right now, but the entities that know about what your spiritual baggage is, oh, they're going to put it on you when you get back here.
Oh, so
When
how
you
would that so how would that
reincarnate.
go? I'm sorry, what you say?
I said when you reincarnate, if you will. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So does the does the lifting of the contract, is it the same for the male and the female? The process of how you
You
lift
got to
up.
understand, we're all spiritual beings. You follow me? So it's the same. We're just in these vessels are Listen, your vessel is a contract. Your vessel is telling what you did in a past life. It's telling, as a matter of fact, see, that's why I tell people, like, I know certain things about your history. So your vessel speaks in that I understand when I look at you or look at somebody, I can know what was going on with your parents at a specific time, or your mother in particular. Not necessarily your father, but your mother. I could tell what was going on with her. Again, because your vessel speaks, it is a contract in itself. So I'm saying all that to say that your vessel is just you can look at it like a vehicle so that you can maneuver around in this dimension. That's really all it is. As a spiritual entity, you are the same as the next female. As a matter of fact, I won't even go into that. But you're the same. It's the same thing. But the vessel is telling a story about energies put out at another time.
So do you believe that right now, because both sides have this debt on them, should they, should males and females even be around each other right now?
I'm not one to tell people what to do. When I speak to somebody, it's all about finding your happiness. All right. First of all, find your peace and happiness. Because once you do that, everything is going to come into order. The second thing with women that I tell them is know who you are contracting with and respect his nature. I find a big problem with the fact that women want to call men dogs, want to be disrespectful to them, and say all of these things. But it's like he's been telling you, yeah, he's a cheater, he's a this, but he's been telling you that what his nature is. And then we have been trained in society to say, oh, I want a good man. Well, what is a good man? Because I would say the good man is the one that tried to tell you he didn't want to have a relationship. Because his nature is to spread his seed. That's the one that was trying to be honest with you. But you didn't want that. You wanted the one who was going to lie to you and tell you, yeah, girl, I'm going to be with you for the rest of my. Okay. But that's not in the nature of a male. So I don't know. I hope I'm answering your question.
Okay, for sure. So, okay, so outside of just the male specifically, so outside of spreading the seed for the male, that's it. Nothing else. Lifting things, move something around, spread seed. That's it. And women shouldn't really expect anything more from that
Let me ask you a question. See if you can finish this sentence that we all know. It takes a village.
to raise a child.
What's the village? We haven't seen a village since the invent of marriage. What happened to the village? And they want to act like, oh, this come from Africa. No, it didn't. This was here in the Americas with the clans, because there were clans here in the Americas. It takes a village. Well, what's the village? Her mother, her grandmother, her sisters, her cousins, her aunts, her nieces, her girlfriends. It's the women in the matriarchy. There was no pressing him about rearing or protecting or providing for a child. There was never that. What happened to the village?
Okay. All right. So right now today, so what should be the expectations if people are in a relationship? Because I want to go into contract because I really want to understand that more. But before I go into there, so people that's in a relationship, guy, girl, they got their thing going. A woman hears this, what you're saying, and she looks at her guy as what now? She
Let me, let me say this, Ken. What I do, Ken, I'm just going to give you what the facts are. I do not do relationship therapy. All right. I'm just giving you the facts. So let me say this. When I give the facts to my students or anybody else who's watched my sessions, I get a lot of people saying, you know what? your information helped my relationship. It helped my marriage. All right. Because now I better understand who I'm contracting with. So the only thing that I'm here to do is just to give the facts. I'm not here to give you therapy. You got to take the information and use it for your advantage and your benefit. So my thing is, do you know who this man is? I'm going to say this. Women need to back up before they open their legs to men. Why? Because these women don't know who you are. So they open their, because you got to understand, again, this flesh has its own nature. The flesh of the male is to plant seed. So that flesh is so powerful that it's going to tell him to do or say what he needs to say in order to plant the seed, because that's the first job of the flesh, is to plant seeds. And if you're not respecting that nature, then the problem is not him, it's you. When we're talking about law and natural law, it is about respecting the nature of the beings that you're contracting with. So if you're dealing with him, understand what his nature is, and women, well, he's supposed to be blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's say he's supposed to be whatever. Going back to the spirit versus the flesh. If a man is in honor and intact with his spirit, he might be able to honor the things that he's saying. But that doesn't negate the fact that he is still in that male flesh vessel, and it has a nature, and it's telling him to plant some seed. If you're not respecting that, the problem is not him, the problem is you. Because men have told you who they are. When we have an epidemic of women saying he don't take care of his baby, he don't take care of his baby, why would you want to be in that epidemic? Instead of, let me take my time, know who this man is before I allow him to plant seed in me. Is he even worthy of planting seed? See, this is why, let me go into this, and then I'm gonna back off. But this is why women coming at me and they tell me, oh, he is low down, dirty, this and that and that. Hold on now. Hold on. Because you can't tell me about what he is without telling me about who you are. You can't tell me about what he is without telling me about who you are, because he is your reflection. And so if you are telling me you laid down with a man who's a low down, dirty, no good, this, that, and that, I got to wonder, let me rephrase that. I know where your mind is. I know who you are. So this is why it's important, before we start dissing him and pointing fingers and all that, we got to look at self, because there ain't no baby daddy unless you say yes.
How are these contracts formed and made? Like, what binds them?
Which contracts?
When you were saying we're contracted to be here, right? How, like, where does that start? How does that work?
All right. So as spiritual entities, all right, once again, you're your ancestor. So the vessel expires, there's a spiritual essence. Now, I can't go deep into it here, but there's a spiritual essence that always continues to be. That's why we call ourselves ethereal beings, ether. All right. So what happens is, when it's time for that spirit to come back up in here, it's got a contract with a feminine entity to go through the womb in order to come back in here. All right. So what the contract looks like is that let's understand, because when people see a baby, they just think, oh, well, the innocent little baby. No. A child is an old spirit coming back in a new vessel. It chose the mother, But you look at it and think, well, no, it's innocent. It don't have that much power. That the child is the most powerful being in the room. That's the one that's just coming back in here from the ether. That the you got to understand the child is the one with the real power. That's so what happens is this is why the system wants to get your children into school as soon as possible so we can program their mind. All right. So I'm letting you know the child has a lot of power. Then when you program it, well, then it forgets, just like the rest of us have forgotten. But if somebody was training it and teaching that child what these true laws are, you'd have a different society, period.
Okay. So those that baby girl just comes into the world, right? The laws that you're speaking of, how do you believe that those baby girls should be educated when it comes to the law? How do you go about that?
So originally, um, again, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just letting you know. Originally, the females were taught all of the knowledge, and then the women started training the males. When you know this term Mason, all right, Mason, you're familiar with the Mason, right?
My son, yes.
Okay, so you know the breakdown
Yes.
where the mother was teaching the son those that esoteric knowledge. That's where the term Mason comes from. So at this point, it doesn't matter if it's a male or female, they need to understand the universal law and who they are on a molecular level, on a historical level. Even when we're talking about all of this, these are laws. They need to be taught. They haven't been taught. Why do we not know what the universal laws are? We just can pick stuff. Okay, what's done in the dark can come to the light, or and we just know pieces of it. Why don't we know the whole thing? They get taught that in masonry school. The Masons get taught universal laws. They call them the seven hermetic principles. Why isn't the rest of society being taught that? That's what you have to know in order to be able to walk in honor with the universe. But because we're ignorant of those laws, what they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, that's how the universe plays. If you're ignorant of the law and you do something that is not in harmony with the universe, there's no excuse. You're ready to get that energy back, whether you like it or not, unless you know how to cleanse those spiritual energies.
So women specifically, if women begin to tap into the universal law, that will begin to raise their state of what consciousness, agency, things like. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what you're seeing right now. That's exactly what you're seeing right now as you see her pull away. You're seeing her raising her spiritual consciousness because she's saying, I want my peace. I know I deserve this. I have self-love, and I don't have to stand for this. She's coming into peace. She's recognizing now that, okay, he ain't doing what they told us he's supposed to do. So why do I keep fighting him? I'm gonna just go over here and do it myself. That's what you're seeing. Her saying, I'm tired of fighting. I don't have to fight. I can do it myself. I don't have to depend on anybody. So let me go over here and do it myself and be in peace. That's what you're seeing.
So you mentioned molecular structure. What did you mean by that?
Who are you as a being carrying a Y chromosome? Who is she as a being carrying two X chromosomes? Listen, that the molecular structure is huge. Why? And I can only go into so much of it here because I'm only allowed to do that spiritually. But the molecular structure of who she is huge. When you're talking about those two X chromosomes that she's carrying, and what's going on with it and why she can't tap into it? What is his Y chromosome? Where did it come from? Who is he? What is he really? What is he made of? Does the woman know that all males were originally female? Wait a minute, what? Yeah. Does she know that? Does she know that inside of you, we're talking about the molecular structure of a male? What is that Y chromosome? That Y chromosome is, you got that one Y chromosome, and everything else is X chromosomes. That Y chromosome is constantly fighting against the X within every male. That Y chromosome is fighting against the X chromosome in the male. So, what do you think? If he's not intact spiritually, he's going to do to you as a feminine being, or he's going to fight, because that's what's going on within him. So you got to understand who he is from a molecular structure to even be able to do business with him, to understand the fact that he's fighting on the inside. So I need to make sure I'm dealing with somebody who's spiritually intact, because if he's not, his flesh will take over without a doubt.
So when women are expecting men to be protectors and providers, and that is going against their nature, when men expect women to be nurturers, is that expectation correct?
Yes, sir.
It is. Okay.
Yes, sir. She's in her right mind. That's what she's going to do, and you don't have to ask her to do it.
So nurture, that is so the woman naturally is the nurturer, but the man is not naturally the protector and the provider.
No,
No. Okay.
no. I mean, you got to understand it. Let me break this down, because women think they're supposed to be protected or whatever. And you've been here. I don't know if you're going to share anything or whatever, or have any resonations with what I'm about to say. But the fact that if a woman is in danger, she's bringing it. She's bringing it. I have so many situations, and one right now, where a male thought he was supposed to protect her, and that's what he called himself doing. He ended up murdering someone. Now he's on trial for that. But let's understand that she was bringing all of the issue in the first place that caused him to be in that situation. Why am I saying when she gets herself together? He would have never had to step up in that way for her. But her energies were off. The things that she was doing, she was bringing that danger. She brought it to herself. When she steps up and recognizes who she is, you don't have to protect her. Her energies are going to protect her.
Okay, can you break that down? Just chunk it down. Just so when you're saying she's bringing the energy to her, is it her thoughts? Is it something from her diet? Is it something from the womb? Is it something going on that's with the heart? What do you mean by she's bringing the danger?
What she's doing? So, and I can't go into that case that I'm talking about, but just let me give you an example. If okay, you've heard, let's say you were in a club, all right, and you heard comedians joke about this, and she's in a club and some man does whatever he does to her, and then there's this whole rigmarole, and now he's expected to step up for her and honor her for whatever reason. But the problem is that it's never understood that she has brought that energy. Again, everybody is your reflection. So if there's a situation where she's in a club or whatever, they're doing whatever, and she's getting these energies, she's bringing it. So now he's got to step in, because she's expecting, well, baby, he did this to me. What you gonna do? Now he's got to step up when she's the one who brought the energy. That's what I'm talking about. When she gets her energies right, he won't have to step up like that.
So is there any scenario where the male, do you believe, should be the protector in the way that we understand?
Listen, I'm not saying that the male doing that job is a bad thing. What I'm saying to you is it is not in the nature. That is all I'm saying. It is not in the nature. So when you get a male to do that, then you got an exception. That's not the norm. And I think you know this. I think you know you've talked to enough people where enough brothers or males, and you have an understanding that that's not in general what they even care to do. It's not in their nature. But it's expected because society has made men feel that, oh, if you don't do this, you ain't no good, you low down. The same way they made women feel, oh, if you don't have a man in your life, if you can't keep a man, then you're not worthy of, you're not a real woman. The problem is that what we've been fed in this society is is backwards. It's not in alignment with nature. That's what I'm saying.
So, so according to nature, the woman looks like what? Just on a regular basis, according to nature, with no male contact, the woman looks like what?
Well, the woman, she takes care of whatever business she wants to take. Okay, let me go into this. If you're talking about what the woman looks like, she looks happy. She looks unfrustrated. She's in good health. She's wealthy. She's running businesses. She's doing, I'm saying to you, she has learned even to take care of the child and do all those other things that she wants to do, and she's in peace. If you're talking about, again, even if you just go back to the village, it wasn't that it was centered around a male, it was just centered around family structure and doing the best for the child. And then whatever business she wanted to take care of, that's what she took care of. Listen, I'm not suggesting one way or the other. I'm letting you know we're going back to nature. A lot of people don't like hearing this information. We're going back to nature. What you're seeing when you're seeing women pull away and you're seeing men go at it like this, we're going back to nature, like it or not. I'm just giving you the facts about what's happening. You don't have to like it. You don't have to appreciate what I'm saying. Here are the facts. So now that you know, I say get yourself in order so that you come out on the best side of this game, males and females.
So with women making those decisions, does it have anything to do with astrology or where we're at in the cosmos? Does that have anything to do with it?
Okay, I'm not a big astrology.
Okay.
Astrology is not my strong suit. This is, as they say, the age of Aquarius. I'm an Aquarian. Could be.
Okay. Now you mentioned law a couple times. What? Now there's man's law and there's natural law. What's the difference?
All right, so there's universal law. I talked about that. That is where we are uh, dealing with whatever energy you put out must come back. All right, that's universal law. Natural law. Natural law deals with the fact that we live in abundance. You look at nature, you go plant a seed. You plant a tomato seed, you're going to get a tomato plant, and it's going to have a whole bunch of tomatoes in it, and it's going to have a whole bunch of seeds in it. That's abundance. So when you plant a seed, the universe returns it. And you got to understand that nature is mimicking universe. So when you plant something and you get it back, okay, you're getting it in multiples. When you're talking about the natural law, you're also dealing with respecting the nature of the beings that show up in this third dimension, respecting their nature. A dog is going to bark, a cat is going to meow. You don't buy a cat so it can be a guard dog for your house. You're not respecting the nature of that being. And so the same thing when I say that women are not respecting the nature of males, and males are made to think that they're supposed to do something that is not even in their nature.
So man's law would be
Man's
that.
law is a have a driver's license or a seat belt, or that these man's law is specifically created to take away your God-given rights. So let me get into God's law, which is the next thing on the hierarchy of law chart. These are the laws that come directly from the Bible. Now, we got a lot of people who don't like the Bible. Oh, I can't stand the Bible. The Bible is the white man's, and it's not, because the Albion didn't create that. I got a whole bunch of reasons why you will know that. But that Bible is not the perfect word of God. It's not. However, it's very, very powerful. And when you know to stand under your God, whatever your God is, especially if you're dealing in a court situation, then everybody has to respect that. You follow what I'm saying? It's like people go into court, like I tell atheists, don't you go into court talking about, oh, I don't believe in God. You just threw away all your power. Real quick, because I want to talk about this, because we talk about God's laws. Maxims of Law is what is the title. Maxims of Law. And this is the UNA Beginner Law Book. Y'all can get this at unauniversity.com, or you can find it in Ken's bio, the link in Ken's bio. But this has a lot, all of the universal laws, hierarchy of law, which is telling you the order in which things are. And this has the maxims of law, all 200 and some odd maxims of law. They're very powerful. And when you go into court, and I'm going to say this real quick and I'm going to back up off of it. You got to understand, when you go into court, all right, there is a seance going on. Again, spiritual. Why is he in a black robe? And he, all rise, all you dead people rise, is what he's saying. All rise. And so what's happening is there is a spiritual seance going on. You don't know it, but that's the deal. So I'm not getting into the dead people or whatever, but I'm bringing up this book and those laws because even when you go into that court, if you stand under your own God, whoever your God is, they have to respect it in that court. All right. So that's the third law. So then you start, those laws are given to you by God. They cannot be taken away from you. They cannot be sold to you and repackaged. Those are what God gave you. Now, when you start talking about man's law and the seatbelt and the driver's license and the speeding law, those are not even laws. Those are code statutes and ordinances that are created specifically to take away your God-given rights. But when you know how to stand, they cannot be taken away from you. All right. So I'm done with that.
Okay. So the courts, you mentioned the courts. Does the courts, is it tied to the state of women, or basically like a man's law, the how the government is ran? Is it tied to the state of women?
The government and how it's run is tied to the state of people, period. So why does, okay, let's go into why a government comes up in the first place. All right. So what happened, let's understand what government means. Govern means to control. Control. Ment means mind. Government means control of the mind. Why is it that our mind needs to be controlled? Well, because we forgot how to be sovereign. We forgot how to stand under God. We forgot how to respect universal laws. That's why the government came into play in the first place, because we were not acting honorable. You want to get rid of the government? Start with self and understanding these laws and what's going on. They got to go away. So what happened is, because we're no longer sovereign, we don't know how to stand as adults. Well, the government has to come in. Well, what you mean, Diva? We don't know how to stand as adults. We don't. Okay, so let me give you an example. So I'm ready to go a little bit deep here. A lot of people are gonna be upset with
Go
me
ahead,
about
go deep. Go ahead, go deep.
All right. Going into the universal laws and understanding, once again, whatever energy you put out must come back. And some people are going to be upset with me, but I tell you, please check yourself. Check yourself because I'm going to go into this. When I see, let's say I see somebody getting something stolen from them, I see a thief. And I'm not talking about the one who did the stealing. I'm talking about the one who got the stuff stolen, the so-called victim. See, a lot of people are gonna say to me, "But you victim blaming." There is no victim. That's another universal principle. There are no victims. Every energy that you are receiving is an energy that has come to you because of an energy that you put out. So this, because people think, okay, what's done in the dark, you gonna finish that for me?
Comes to the light.
That's a universal principle.
Okay.
So people think that they can do dirt in the dark and nobody sees them. But please note, you are always seen. Always. Always. You cannot do dirt and it not come back on you. So I have people, oh, people steal because somebody broke in my house. Okay, whose house did you break into? Oh, I used to do some dirt. I know you did because you just told me. But no, I was telling you somebody stole from me. Yeah, they stole from you because you stole from somebody else. So when we learn to stop stealing or stop doing dirt to other people, we don't need a police department, do we?
Hmm.
Well, I don't need to report that somebody stole something from me because nothing gets stolen from me because I don't put that energy out.
Okay, so circling back to that. So the energy that people are putting out, what what is the seed for them to put out the wrong type of energy? How's it even festering in them? How's it getting in them?
Well, in ignorance. First of all, if you're ignorant of the law, that's first thing. Because again, when you know what the law is, you know not to do dirt because it will return. You know. All right. Secondly, you know, secondly, it has to do with people being in their own desperate state and thinking that they're victims, operating in a lower vibratory frequency whereby you're angry, you're ashamed, you're mad, or whatever it is, guilt, you have guilt going, a guilt complex, all of that causes people to operate in a lower vibratory frequency and do lower vibratory things to other people. But when your energies are right and you understand law and you know better than to put that energy out, the government's got to disappear. But right now, the society has forgotten how to govern self, which is what being a sovereign is. So now they need a government to control their minds. But the minute you get control of your mind, they got to disappear.
Okay. So real quick. So pretty much globally men ahead of the government, right? Where did the male get the nature to set up government?
Everything, as we talked about, the woman was the one who was training. Even nowadays, you'll see a woman is the head of the army. Who was that? The most famous woman, head of the army. Even back in the day, the woman controlled that. Uh, so if your question is, and I'm trying to make sure I understand your question that you're asking me as far as uh, they're running the government now, but what's your give me a point so I can understand what you're saying.
So your initial point about the male nature, about just spreading seed and reproducing. setting up governments around the world. Where did the male learn that? He learned
Yeah,
that
that
from
did
his
that
ancient
didn't just
mother.
yeah, and you got to understand, it was the woman who taught him, but who taught her? Again, there were other beings here, and they still here. They're still here. If you're not recognizing the speed at which we're getting this technology, even if you're talking about these human vessels, it is scientifically proven that that is mixed with some other being from some other entity. That's scientifically proven. That being that supposedly created this human vessel had full knowledge of how to manipulate DNA. They also had full knowledge of technology. They weren't trying to share that with the humans. But now somebody is tapping in and getting this. Did you see how fast technology is speeding up right now? You think the people who run the government actually had the knowledge to do that? Get real. Get real. They're getting help from somewhere. They're getting help from somewhere. And the beings that created these vessels, they didn't leave. They can't leave. They can't leave.
Okay, so for the male to be in the position, he's getting that knowledge to rule from somewhere because it's not coming from his real nature, right? He's getting that from somewhere. He's tapping into something, right?
You gotta okay. So now you get ready to help. I'm gonna help you understand
Okay.
what the Y chromosome is,
Okay.
and I really want to go into this because I don't want to seem like I am uh, saying anything negative about my brother
Okay.
because I do love my brother, but I need it to be. I like to make sure we understand what the male is, what that Y chromosome is. All right. So the Y chromosome is what is known of as a genetically modified entity. All right. Y'all in the comment section, don't be knee jerking on this information, please. I'm just giving you the facts. Go look it up. All right. It is a genetically modified, recessive, unnatural, parasitic trait. When we look in other areas where you got GMO beings, what do they do with respect to the beings that created them? Well, they take it over. And part of that has to do with the fact that the woman was disrespectful and did dirt to the male. So there's a spiritual thing going on, and then there's a molecular thing going on here. Where look look at what a GMO. What does a GMO do to corn? You put GMO corn in a field next to a natural corn, and this GMO corn is going to take over. Look at these bees, the GMO bees. They have taken over the natural bees to the point where, oh, we're in the epidemic. We don't have any real natural honey bees. Oh, okay. Because that's what GMO will do. Well, is that not similar to what has happened with the male and how he has dominated her? Because we can go back and we can see plainly that the woman was running everything and that he took her over. 325 AD was the first Bible. Christianity, all religions are patriarchal, and their purpose is to subjugate the woman. That came into play in AD. So before that, what was going on? Why do we have matriarchy and why do we even have patriarchy in the first place? If it was always men running everything, then there ain't no such thing as no matriarchy. It's just what it is. There's no need to have patriarchy, but it exists because there was a matriarchy before patriarchy. But that's what nobody's talking about. So where does the male get it from? You got to understand who he is. It's in his nature to take over something, the thing that created it. You
So
asked for that. I ain't want to go
okay,
into But you asked.
Man, go ahead, drop the bomb on it. Okay, so you mentioned women being disrespectful to the male, right?
Yes.
So the Eve story in Genesis, is that symbolic of the fall of the woman from your research?
All right. So when you got to remember, there's a Lilith, a Lilith. You know Lilith.
I heard of Lilith, yes.
All right. So I'm gonna go into this a little bit. I won't go deep, but Lilith was said to be the original female to Adam, or by they came from the same womb, same flesh. Now, Lilith did not like being ruled over by Adam, and Lilith had a knowledge of self that women don't have today. So what the story says, the myth says, but just because it's a myth, please understand that doesn't mean it's a lie. Same thing with Wonder Woman. They want you to be entertained by the Wonder Woman story, but that was a real group of women. That story is based on a real group of women. Please understand, when we're talking about Lilith, we're talking about a feminine being that had knowledge of self. She didn't want to be with this male. She's like, I'm out of here. Lilith flew away. She sprouted wings and flew away. Now, they want to say she's the demon. They call her a demon. But when you look at the story, where and why was she a demon? When the only thing she said was, I don't want to be with him. I'm ready to go. Now, think about this now. I want you to listen, because this is not the only time you heard about a woman giving birth without a male. But she flies away, and then God says, he sends angels to tell Lilith to come back. And Lilith said, nope, I'm not going back. I don't want to be there. I don't like him. I'm good on my own. So God says, well, if she doesn't come back, I'm going to kill a certain number, a certain 100 of her children every day. Now I'm like, wait a minute. How many? First of all, she's giving birth on her own. That's called parthenogenesis. Women still to this day have the ability. They lack the knowledge to do that, and they lack the discipline to do it, but they have the ability. This goes into tapping into that other chromosome. All right, parthenogenesis. So she's, first of all, this story, whether it's myth or not, there is always truth in every lie. She's giving birth. And this God is telling her, well, if you don't come back, I'm killing your children. Now, how many, first of all, she's giving birth on her own. Then how many is she having a day where he's killing hundreds of them a day? So what I'm saying to you, what we didn't look at in that story is the fact that it was the God that was doing all the evil stuff to her, simply because she chose to exercise her right to be on her own. That's evil. So now, understanding this, Lilith was the first one. She sprouted wings. Let's go into that. What, she sprouted wings and flew away. Why didn't Adam sprout wings and fly away? He didn't have the physical ability to do that. She did. She had knowledge of self. Okay, I go into those two X chromosomes, and then the X and the Y chromosome. There's power in that X chromosome. This X chromosome now is dormant in the female. But when it's turned on, when that X chromosome is turned on, she got X-Men powers. Why they call it X-Men? Why do they call it X-Men when X always represents the feminine? They want you to be entertained once again by this X-Men story. But the truth of the matter is, when she taps into that other X chromosome, oh, she got the ability to levitate, move things with her mind again, teleport, all these other things that we know we used to be able to do. Yeah, when she gets knowledge of self, she turns on that other X chromosome, she taps into it. That's where those powers come. So again, y'all just made the thing, oh, this is entertainment, the X-Men. Well, who was the most powerful X-Men of them all? Oh, you gonna leave me hanging? I get crickets over here. Okay. All right, Ken. I thought we was friends. You
Oh
just made
no. So
you don't watch the series.
Jean?
Okay.
Jean?
Huh?
Is it Jean?
It was the female.
Is it Jean Grey?
Yeah, was that her name? I
Oh,
don't
Jean
remember her
Grey.
name.
Okay. Oh, Jean. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Jean.
and remember what her issue was. Her
Okay.
biggest issue. She couldn't control her anger. Because she couldn't control her anger, she destroyed everything around her. These two X chromosomes, one of them had to be turned off because that's what women are doing. Because she doesn't have knowledge of self, she's spraying these energies all over the place. She's thinking, oh, I got a right to be this and I got a right to be that. But when you spray that energy, that anger, that grief, that whatever pity or whatever you feel, sorrow, when you're spraying that, it's got to come back. It is an energy. So that was the same thing with her. She was constantly putting out all these angry energies and she was destroying herself. That's what women are doing. Again, y'all, you know how they tell you, oh, the movies tell you everything. They have to tell you what they're going to do to you before they do it. They telling you. They're telling you. And I'm saying to you, the reason why there's the fifth dimensional woman tour, and you can find it in the link that Ken posted. Yeah, that's why there's that tour, because women need to understand your powers are coming back on. Your powers are coming back on. But if you're in a victim state or a victim mind frame, you're going to end up destroying yourself. That's why they had to be turned off. Where they're coming back on. You're tapping in.
Okay. So what are the powers that are dormant in women? What
I
are the
just,
powers women have that they don't know that they have?
I just, I'm gonna give you one that's very simple. You ever dated a woman, and hopefully you'll be willing to communicate with me on this. You ever dated a woman and she was like, "Well, I shouldn't have to tell you. You should know."
Yeah, for sure.
How many you had more than one to do that?
Yeah, more than one. Yeah, a couple of them.
Because that is an intrinsic thing from the past. That's don't you think that's crazy? Why in the ham sandwich, ma'am, do you think I can read your mind? And that is more than one woman, and that is a regular thing because that's coming from her in the past. We used to be able to do that. We used to be able to communicate without moving our lips. This is
Okay.
not, you got to understand, you are ethereal. You've been here. This vessel is just a new incarnation. It's just a vehicle, but she's doing things and saying things that are indicative of what went on in the past. She used to be able to do that. But she's telling you should know, because you should. Why in the heck should I know, ma'am? You didn't tell me.
Okay. So when women are expecting a male to read their mind, that's based on some ancient memory that
Sir,
of
yes,
communication
sir.
that used to exist before.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. 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 So, so the male previously was able to communicate with the woman without using words before. So the male
I
had
didn't
a
say the male could do that. I don't
oh
I don't know that he had that ability.
okay. So this
I
is a
know
woman
she
on
did.
woman thing.
I know she did. Okay, it's like this. Okay, if a woman is uh in a situation where she's got the village, all right? And the village is, let's say she's pregnant and the village is taking care of her and helping her with everything. She doesn't have to say to the mama or the auntie or the grandmama what she needs. Grandmama gonna get it before she even asks. or they're going to know how to communicate. See, I can't go in. Look, you've heard of the mitochondrial DNA.
I have, yes.
Very powerful. I can't go into it here, but it's very powerful. And so that's shared by the mother. So all the mitochondrial DNA that's in you is coming from the mother. And they share that. That's part of where the ability to communicate without moving your mouth comes from. But yeah, she had that through her family, through her village. I'm not saying that she had that with a male. I don't know that he had that. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying he did. I'm saying I don't know, but I know she did.
Okay, so then there's a connection amongst women and each other that's missing right now then. Because if the male didn't wasn't able to communicate like that, so this is a
I didn't say.
right? So this is the same among women. Okay.
I didn't
So
say he couldn't.
oh,
I
okay.
want to make that clear.
Okay.
I didn't say he couldn't. I said I don't know that he had the ability to do that.
Okay.
Okay, but remember, everything started with the village. Everything started with the village. So you got to understand, even on a physical level, women have that connectivity. Why is it all the periods sync up when you around certain women? Why? What? I'm sorry. When women are around each other for a prolonged period of time, why do periods sync up? That is a physical thing right there, and it's partly spiritual too. So there is a connection.
Real quick, parthenogenesis. So women conceiving themselves. So the Immaculate Conception is an example, a metaphysical example, an occult esoteric example of what exactly? Because
But
that's
what did you
the,
say? The macro,
the Immaculate Conception, isn't that parthenogenesis?
um, I'm not the immaculate conception. I've heard of it. I don't use that term. Parthenogenesis is whereby a woman clones herself.
Okay.
Okay. Now you've heard about it over and over again. Well, let me rephrase that. You've heard two cases of parthenogenesis with respect to humans. One with Lilith, where they're telling you, oh, she's not with Adam anymore, but she's still procreating. And then two with Mary and Jesus. Listen, there if it's stated, then that means it happened. If it's stated, that means it happened. And well, Diva, who do you know that did that? Oh, the Khalifa tribe. Amazon women in South America, Khalifa tribe in North America. Those were all women clans. Because in the Americas, it was clans. And there's still tribes that do it to this day. You're not supposed to know about it. So nobody's gonna report on that.
So in the parthenogenesis in antiquity, were women birthing the male, or the male was the creation of the Anunnaki?
Okay, when a woman gives birth via parthenogenesis, the only thing she can give birth to is a female. That's why I don't want to go into that Jesus story, but there's a lot of things that have been changed in that Bible with respect to the characters in that Bible. But when a woman gives birth via parthenogenesis, or any other being gives birth via parthenogenesis, the only thing they can create is
There you go. All right. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I just said she can only create a female.
Oh, she only could create a female. Okay. So the male doesn't come from the woman. He comes from a different entity.
So let's understand the beings that created these vessels and that created the Y chromosome were a feminine being. And when we look, so okay, go back to the Bible. The original gods in the Bible, there were many, by the way. Just so somebody, it's only one God. There were many gods in the Bible. Notice they said, "Let us create man in our image." Okay, there were many of them. And when you go and read any of the left out books, you're gonna find that they had names. So what happened is somebody removed the names of the 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 God beings. Most of them were feminine, and replaced them with God or Lord. If you look at up Elohim, Elohim means many gods. El means God. Ohim, many gods. Okay, so just in understanding that, a feminine being created the male. All right, and so the thing that happened is that this in creating this chromosome, again they were creating a, a slave being. That was the purpose of it, to create a slave being. So let me make sure. I want to refresh because I had to go into some preface stuff so that we understand where I'm ready to go. Restate your question for me so I can make sure I answer it properly.
The question. Oh, I was asking, was the male coming from a female, a woman? Does a male come from a woman, or is a male created from a different entity?
No, he comes. The male is a female, inside out female. That's what he is. Let's understand, he is created in the image of the woman. The male is created in the image of the woman. Okay, what you talking about, Diva? Okay, your breast, the male's breast. They are uh, non-functioning breast, as what the image of the woman. What is his? He has a womb. His womb is non-functioning. It's called a prostate. His ovaries. He got ovaries. They're called scrotum. He got a vagina. It's called a penis. That little Darth Vader looking thing, that is a clitoris. I'm saying to you, my brother is my sister. And the deal is that Y chromosome is a derivative of the X. It is derived from the X. So when I'm talking about this, what I'm saying is you got to recognize that he comes from the feminine. All males were originally girls until, yeah, the and by the way, I need to say this, and this is gonna really upset some people in the comment section too. Don't knee jerk on this information. Go look it up. There is no such thing as a male sperm. There is no such thing. They're all female sperm, all of them. And it better be a female sperm or he's going to be fertile because, yeah, a Y chromosome is not the same as an X. And there's going to be a being, Mother Nature, I'm going to say Mother Nature, just like that, because I can only say so much. But there's going to be a being that's going to stop that union. If he's coming in with an X sperm, a sperm with an X in it, it does not match with this Y. There's going to be a being that stops that. It's not going to happen. He better have female sperm or he's going to be fertile because he's not going to be able to penetrate her.
So I have women in my life. Is there anything that I can do to help the women that I know close and people on the periphery? Can I? Is there anything I can do to help them be the fifth dimensional woman? What is it? What is it that a guy can do?
Oh, to help them be. Well, you can share the information, but I thought you were going to just say that to help be an honor. Look, this is the big thing that I say to males. If you want to help, just be an honor. Do what you say you're going to do, and only say what you're going to do. Because the problem here is that women have these expectations on men. And you ever notice, like, if somebody disappoints you, it has everything to do with an expectation, some contract that you made up in your mind, right?
Hmm.
Think about the times when you were angry with somebody. It had to do with an expectation. You expected them to do something different, and it had to do with a contract. The thing that males can do is not allow somebody to put them in a contract that they know goes against their nature. That's the first thing.
What do you mean by that?
When men meet a woman, they are presenting what we call their representative. All right. And I get it. You can't just go up to a woman and say, hey, I just want to hit it and quit it. You can't just say that. You got to give it time and listen to all the stuff she's saying over at dinner or whatever. But what happens is she's going to give you a contract. She's going to say to you, well, look, you got to marry me and be with me and only me for the rest of life. And then you enter this contract knowing full well that you was just looking at somebody else while y'all was eating dinner. You're not you trying to enter this contract and you're not being honest because it's going against your nature. That's what I'm saying. If you know it goes against your nature, then don't let somebody put you in the contract.
So the male can only be accountable for the contracts he makes, just, or is the male supposed to be accountable based
Yeah,
on nature?
all of us have to be accountable.
Okay.
All of us have to be accountable. But I'm not understanding why you asked that. Yes, he's got to be accountable for his contracts because he's contracting too. When he says, "Okay, baby, yeah, I marry you," and then he goes off and does something that he knows is not in honor with the contract that he made with her. But if he had never entered that contract in the first place, that's another story.
Okay. So the way that someone like myself would assist in the path for women that want to go to the fifth dimension would be honor, would be holding on to the contract, honoring the contract, right? What else? What would it be
Yeah, I mean,
for me?
if you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it. And if you know you can't do it, don't enter the contract. Period. Now, other than that, giving information, making sure you're studied up. One of the things that I find is that my brothers, they tend to know this information that I'm giving. Now, they're not going to always tell women and they're not going to always agree with it because it goes against the ego and the flesh. I get it. But more men are aware of this information that I'm giving you than women. Make sure she knows. I don't, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Let me just say this because this is why I have the fifth dimensional woman tour. And this is not a diss to my brothers at all. This is not a diss. But remember what the vessel is. That vessel has taken over the woman. You have subjugated the female. It's just like you don't expect a slave master to help you uplift yourself. Somebody who's oppressing you, you don't expect them to help you uplift yourself and become equal to them. That's not how that works. It's just like asking the government, hey, government, give us everything we need so we don't have to deal with you anymore. That's not going to happen. They exist for a reason, and they are oppressing the people. That's part of the people's fault. I'm not going into that. But they are oppressing the people. But in order to uplift yourself, you can't expect them to tell you how to do it. You have to be willing to study for yourself and learn. So as a brother, yes, point the women to the right direction. Help them know what's what. But I don't expect you to be able to tell a woman everything she needs to know about who she is. Do you expect an Albion to come in and tell you everything who you are with respect to your history? No, they're not going to do it. Even the most, let me tell you something. I don't have no issue with Albions. And I was studying some things about the Bible. I was listening to these Albions. All of them talk about the Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. Why did none of them ever say that all the people the Bible is talking about are melanated people? Why none of them Albions ever told that? And they are well-meaning, loving people, so we think. But they never came out and said, this Bible is all about melanated people. Why they never said that? Why they had everybody thinking that it was all about the Albion? Okay, I'm not saying that they had any intention of keeping you ignorant, but the bottom line is they're not going to tell you everything about who you are as a melanated person. A man is not going to tell you everything about who you are as a woman, just like a government is not going to tell you how to uplift and free yourself from their clutches. If you want to know it, you better be willing to study.
So the tour you have coming up, tell us about that. What you got popping?
Original Woman Tour. All right, that is going to be, we're going to be on the 24th of August in Chicago. We have New York as well. That's coming up, as well as Atlanta. I want y'all to get your tickets. You can find that link in Ken's bio. And so, yeah, the Fifth Dimensional Woman Tour. Basically, once again, my goal is just to give women information that has been hidden. I get it. This information is 180 degrees opposite of what we have been taught in this society. But please know, this society is 180 degrees opposite from what nature is. And so if you're really trying to get back to nature and right this wrong ship, then you got to be willing to do some studying. Be willing to go and just research who he is. Take some time to back up before you just jump into bed with him, because when you're doing these things, you got to understand he has a nature. His nature has told him what he needs to do in this dimension, and that is to plant seed. What kind of seed is being planted in you? Because that's going to determine what kind of being you bring into this dimension. And again, I say it's all about the woman coming into order, because there can't be a baby daddy unless she says, yes, everything coming in this dimension is coming in it through her. She got to clean up. So we got to give the women this information that has been hidden, in efforts that they, take the information and use it to uplift themselves, gain peace and love and happiness.
So there's a young lady listening out there, and she's just starting her path, and she hears the term fifth dimensional woman. Where does she start at?
Yeah. First thing is start with self. Understanding who you are. And then why you're trying to contract. Because the next thing is to come up out of the lies that we have been taught. Be willing to come up out of the lies that we have been taught. And that is not easy. Because a woman will say, oh, yeah, I want to get back to nature. But she's still holding on to this unnatural paradigm over here. You can't get back to nature if you're over here holding on to this. She got to be willing to come out of the lies. All right. This is not a walk where I can just tell you in 3 minutes, okay, do this, this, and this. No, there's things. And so in the Fifth Dimensional Woman Tour, we're going to have some information. We're going to have that diary where you can get that and then be able to use it to guide you in what you're doing in life. All right. So we're going to have some takeaways from the tour about what needs to be done, what you need to do. But the bottom line, everything And I mean, everything starts with self, coming into knowledge of self. When you get that and being willing to be accountable, being willing to overcome the lies that we have been taught, then you're going to rise automatically.
So real quick though, so I'm all about like intention. So when people go to sleep tonight, so women specifically, a couple things you mentioned was spiritual baggage. And as women are going to their beds tonight, in the sleep realm or the astral world, is there a way for women to address the spiritual baggage you mentioned as they're sleeping? How should they transition into going into the sleep state?
When we're talking about clearing up spiritual baggage, it can start as simple as, and for me, whatever God you pray to, universe, spirits, God, if there are any people who I have harmed in another time, I ask to be forgiven. Remember that prayer, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Why is that? Why is that prayer so powerful? Well, that's the beginning when you're asking for forgiveness, and then you're willing to forgive. I ask for forgiveness for anyone whom I have harmed in the past, and I forgive those who have harmed me. That's the beginning.
Miss Diva, I want to ask this question right here. A woman tapping into her fifth dimensional reality or awakening, does it have anything to do with her sexuality?
Um, so let's understand what sex is. Now, this is a lower vibratory uh, activity. All right, it's dealing with the flesh, and a lot of people confuse it with love. So when it comes to sex, period, woman that's cleaning up herself, she's going to. You got to understand, when you're having sex with someone, sexual intercourse, you're putting spiritual energies or entities within your body. All right, she's going to want to stay away from that unless she knows who this is. So I'm not telling you about what her sexuality is or who she's going to sex, whether it be male or female. If she's going to do that, she's going to back off and make sure that whomever she's contracting with, she knows who they are. She knows that they're in touch with their spiritual side, because she knows that if their DNA gets in her, that's a spiritual entity within her. So, as far as whether or not she's going to be with a male or a female, that's up to her. But
Right.
I'm saying to you, if she chooses to go that route, she's going to be very selective with whomever it is that she chooses to engage with in that way.
Miss D, I want you to give a closeout message talking to whoever you want to that's hearing your voice of just some words about coming out of a low vibration and coming into the higher dimensions and unlocking their power. What do you say in closing?
All right, in closing, when we're talking about unlocking our power and coming into a new dimension, we're dealing with discipline. Discipline. Are you disciplined enough to be willing to structure the activities, who you're sexing, what you're eating, what you're listening to, what you're doing every day, how you're treating other people? Discipline. And I'm not saying it's easy, but you got to be disciplined enough to be willing to be cognizant of the energies that you're putting out. All right. So whether it's sex or whether it's eating food, whether it's what you're doing, how you're treating people, those are things that are going to help us to create our heaven on earth. Because you got to understand, whenever you do something, you're creating energies that show up in your third dimension. And so, what you're going to do is start to recognize that, oh, I'm the one who's creating this third dimension. Well, how about I create it to be what I want it to be? How about I create it to be the heaven I want it to be? Well, you can do that by making sure your energies are in order, and that's where we're talking about that fifth dimension. And then we go into the vibratory frequency after that. Then we go into your thoughts and your beliefs after that. All of that helps you to control what you're seeing in your third dimension. All right?
Sweet.
Y'all come to
And
the tour.
oh, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I said, y'all come to the tour. We're going to be in Chicago on the 24th of August. All right? Chicago. You can find the link. All right. Go ahead, Ken. I
Oh,
apologize.
it's something I do with all my guests. Anytime I interview or chop it up with somebody, I'm gonna throw some words at you, and you just do word association. You tell me the first thing that comes to mind when I throw the word at you. You ready?
Nope, but go ahead.
The future,
Beautiful.
women,
Peaceful.
women,
Power.
men,
Men. I apologize for the long delay. But when
so
I think about men, respect,
money.
energy, and a tool. I'm sorry, you said one word. Go ahead.
It's all good. This is multiple words, but knowledge of self,
Power. Power.
and lastly, the UNA University.
Education. Necessary education.
Ms. D, I appreciate you coming here to Coin Gang and blessing us with your information.
Thank you. What
If,
happened to the question and answer? I thought you were gonna do some.
oh, I'm on a
Okay.
time crunch right now. I got to make some moves. It's still early over here, but for
Hold on
anybody,
a
oh
second.
shoot,
Angela on her grind. Thank you so much. I love you too, sis. All right, go ahead.
okay. So anybody that wants to follow up with you, where can they find you at?
You can find me on TikTok, UNARepublic. All right. UNARepublic on TikTok. You can find us on UNARepublic uh, on YouTube. Okay.
All right, Ms. D, I appreciate you coming to Coin Gang. Thanks everybody for coming. Y'all have a great night.
All right. Thank you.